day had finally come. A day Alice had been awaiting for what felt like an eternity. Her pain and suffering were about to end. For her it was the culmination of torment, a chance to escape this wretched world and reunite with her mother. The creaking of a door echoed through her cell, pulling her from her thoughts. A shadowy figure stepped inside. It was him, the man she had once loved so deeply. He stopped before her cell and ordered the guards to bring her out. They roughly pulled her to her feet, dragging her frail, broken body forward. Alice, barely conscious, was a shell of her former self. Her hair was tangled and matted with dust, her eyes bloodshot from endless nights of tears and suffering. His face betrayed no emotion, his voice cold and detached, cut through the silence like a blade. "Before we leave, I have something to tell you." He paused, looking at her with disdain. "I never loved you." Alice's already fragile heart seemed to shatter further. "I only got engaged to you because your sister insisted. You were nothing but a burden, a suffocating presence I had to endure. Pretending to love you was the hardest thing I've ever done. Your family's connection to mine forced my hand. But now it's over. I regret nothing. You're a creep, a sinner, and now justice will be served." He leaned closer, his face twisted in contempt. "Do you have anything to say?" Alice, gathering the last remnants of her strength, managed to whisper through gritted teeth, "I wish you were dead." Her words caught him off guard. For a moment he faltered, but then he smirked cruelly and ordered the guards to proceed. The journey to the execution arena was long and torturous. The streets were lined with jeering crowds, their faces alight with hatred. People screamed obscenities, hurling curses at Alice as if she were the embodiment of evil itself. When they reached the arena, the roar of the crowd was deafening. Thousands of people had gathered to witness the execution of the sinner. They dragged her forward and threw her onto the stage like a discarded rag. "Look at her," someone screamed from the crowd. "Born a devil. She should have been killed at birth." "Her eyes are evil," another cried. Alice, on her knees, stared blankly at the mob. Her mind raced with unanswered questions. What had she done to deserve this? Why did they hate her so much? What sins had she committed to warrant such cruelty? The commander of the Imperial Guard stepped forward, unrolling a scroll and reading aloud in a booming voice. "By the decree of His Majesty Emperor and the Holy Temple of the Goddess, Georgina Alice, former princess, is found guilty of harming the saint and committing crimes that have brought ruin upon the nation. As punishment, she is to be executed immediately, that her fate may serve as a warning to all." The guards forced Alice onto the guillotine. She closed her eyes, her heart racing. The crowd erupted in cheers as the executioner raised his blade. "It's almost over," Alice thought to herself. "Just a little more, and all this pain will finally end." The blade fell, and with it the arena was filled with cries of triumph. For the crowd, it was a day of justice. For Alice, it was the end of her nightmare, or so it seemed. Darkness surrounded her. She felt herself drifting in an endless void, her feet sinking into cold, still water. A voice called out to her from the depths. "Mommy is waiting for you." Alice covered her ears, trying to shut out the voice. "Brother loves you." Why are they calling me? Wasn't my suffering enough? She thought, her soul trembling. A light appeared in the distance. It grew brighter, drawing her toward it. Hesitant, she took a step, then another, until the light enveloped her completely. At the same moment, the imperial palace of Thalderson was in chaos. The Empress was in labor, her cries of pain echoing through the halls. Maids rushed about carrying towels and water, offering words of encouragement. "You're doing well, Your Majesty," one of them said, holding the Empress's hand. "Just a little more." Finally, the cries of a newborn filled the room. The maids carefully cleaned the baby and placed her in the Empress's arms. Tears streamed down her face as she held her daughter for the first time. "She's perfect," the Empress whispered, kissing the baby's forehead. The doors burst open and Emperor Vexarian Thalros rushed in. His usually stoic demeanor was gone, replaced by visible fear and concern. He knelt beside his wife, taking her hand. "You've done so well," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "She looks just like you." "No," the Empress said, with a tired smile. "She looks like you." The emperor took the baby in his arms, his heart swelling with emotions he couldn't put into words. Holding her close, he whispered, "I'll protect you, always." Just then, a maid gasped, pointing to the window. Outside, the rain had stopped and the sky was filled with a radiant golden light. A divine aura enveloped the palace, and from the heavens, a colossal dragon descended. It was Zathera, the holy dragon of the saint, a being of legend thought to have disappeared centuries ago. The dragon landed gracefully, bowing its massive head toward the palace. Everyone in the room was stunned. "Why has Zathera appeared?" one maid whispered. The emperor's eyes widened. Could it be? Meanwhile, in the holy temple of Thaldrassin, a young priest burst into the Pope's chambers. "Forgive me, Your Holiness, but I bring urgent news." "Compose yourself," the Pope said sternly. The priest, trembling, managed to speak. "The Empress has given birth to a princess, and Zathera has appeared. The divine light surrounds the palace." The Pope's expression changed to one of awe. "The time has come. The saint has been reborn." He stood, his voice filled with authority. "Announce it to the people. Let the bells ring out across the empire. The saint has returned to guide us once more." The great bells of Thaldrassin, silent for centuries, tolled loudly. The people poured into the streets, their eyes fixed on the divine light surrounding the palace. Tears streamed down their faces. It was a moment of hope, the birth of a savior. The saint had come.